Amadi après-midi, où te sais qu'aider-moi, nous jouons un nouvel appel. Il y a des bonhommes pour se croiser. Papa, maman, enfants, boulot, ma bonne néné, tout le monde a pris ensemble. Emblée, Haïti, pas pleurer, on te voit tout cassé contre nous. Ça me dit que nous devons mourir, nous ne nous sommes pas. Jamais. Emblée, Haïti, chez vous. Haïti, chez oui. Les deux fonds. Troisième son premier, la deuxième son dernier, depuis la vie a continué, en l'obité qui est faite, à nous bouger ces petits couillets, le bon Dieu s'attendait nous, pour nous changer mentalité, pour nous vivre le plus l'amour. Pablo Haïti, Pablo, bon Dieu, bon nous, tout doit s'y porter. Ah ouais. Sans vite, nous devons un beau pays, nous ne sommes pas traversés. Jamais. Pablo Haïti, chez nous. Carlos. Oh papa, oh maman, oh différent, oh tissé. Oui.
Comrades, you all can unmute your mics.
I think my mic is on mute.
No, I can hear you, Mr. Alexander.
Okay.
All right. Can everybody hear me clearly?
I can hear you clearly, my brother.
All right.
I can hear you clearly.
Okay, good. Somebody has a feedback. I'm hearing a repeat of myself.
Feedback? Okay.
Oh, I know. Kojak, mute your mic. Okay, hold on. Yeah, okay.
The YouTube live streaming.
Oh, hold on.
Link.
Oh, okay. I know. You're right. It's YouTube. Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but Kojak seems to have something on because I see him taking the screen. It doesn't matter. Anyway.
No, Kojak it's fine. All right, Mr. Alexander, get your mic situated. You're moving around too much.
Oh, okay.
All right. Get your mic situated. You're moving around too much.
Oh, okay.
All right. Again. Get your mic. All right. You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's start. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to another Touching Base program on another Monday night. I thank you very much for joining us. And tonight we have a very interesting program. I'm your host, Donovan Fabian. And with me, I have Mr. Clevin Mills, Mr. Morrison Thomas, Mr. Paul Alexander, and Senior Counsel Anthony Astafan will join us briefly. We are streaming live on YouTube on the Touching Base YouTube channel. We are also streaming live on Derek Mann's Facebook page, and I think we are also live on Touching Base Facebook page. We are also being streamed live on VTJM Radio, and we want to thank the proprietor, Mr. Fixtroy Augustus Kojak, for helping us with getting our message across the globe. So I want to welcome my panel, and like I said, we're gonna have a very interesting program. Before I go any further, let me thank Man's Audiovisual for their technical expertise, and also I want to hail up the Mann family in Connecticut. Also, I also want to say that our brother Derek was not feeling too well today, Derek Mann, and we wish him, well. We hope everything is okay. And of course, Derek, if you're listening, we'll call you after the program to check up on you. So without any further ado, let me pass over to my panelists and have them say a quick good evening. Let me start with Mr. Paul Alexander, who hasn't been on our program for a while.
Yes, good evening. Very happy and pleased to be on Touching Base tonight. I hope our listeners will have an enjoyable show tonight and interact with us and take in the information that will be given them tonight. Thanks again for being on the panel.
Welcome, my friend. Welcome. Mr. Morrison Thomas.
Good evening, listeners. Thank you once again for joining us this evening. And I'm just so glad that we can have Mr. Lawa. This is Ambrose Thomas. So just so that you get some familiarity It's me.
Put a name to the face.
All right.
And
All right. So hopefully tonight we would have I'm so excited. I didn't know that you were showing up this evening, so I'm really excited because I know you're very knowledgeable when it comes to the affairs of Granby. You're a walking encyclopedia. So I'm just glad to share a panel with you this evening to discuss, events in Dominica. And I hope
Thank
that
you.
all listeners will glean some sort of knowledge from us after our discussion.
Thank you very much.
And of course, let me welcome the indefatigable Mr. Cleville Mills.
Yes, good evening. Thank you very much, Donnie. It's another pleasure once again to be back on Touching Base on a Monday night. And I want to say special good evening to our co-host, the man Lawa, Paul Alexander,
Yes.
the great.
Good night. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I know that every time we call on you, that you're always there with some very powerful information. So
Thank
looking
you.
with your presence this evening, you'll be giving added that information to the people, especially we're going to look about Granby. I know
Right.
you're a great stalwart on Facebook. You've been debunking all the disinformation that is out there. So
Right.
the mission continues, and we are here this evening to really bring this information to the people of Dominica and let people understand what Granby is all about. Okay, so hoping that we can have a good show this evening. Looking forward to have your company and Donnie as usual. You know it is.
Yes.
Yes, sir. All right, so comrades, this program is geared towards addressing or discussing a very important issue, and that is in regards to some statements that were made by some opposition forces in reference to Granby, where they were going to have a meeting last Sunday, and they clearly stated the reason for going to Granby, and the reason for going to Granby is that's what has prompted me to want to discuss this, because as a man from Granby, I took great offense to that reason. But events have, occurred in the past couple of days. So before we go to our discussion, it would be remiss of us if we did not at least briefly speak about the current events of the Chinese delegation led by the Prime Minister to China to commemorate the 20th anniversary of diplomatic ties between Dominica and China. And of course, we've gotten some reports and some photos and some videos. And I just want to briefly discuss that, because I think this is a momentous occasion. We have to remember how vitally important this China-Dominica alliance friendship has brought to our country's development. So I just want us, before we move into our main subject, to have a little short, discussion going around on this. Okay, so it's open to the floor, and anybody pitching on the events, and of course the history about the importance of China and Dominica's diplomatic ties. Mr. Lawai, you want to take it first?
Well, not really.
Okay. Morrison?
Oh, absolutely.
Remember, it's a brief discussion, yes, because we have to go to the main subject. Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you for putting up the warning. I appreciate that. Yes, very exciting to see that red carpet welcome of our Prime Minister. I mean, the photos that I showed just look so statesmanlike, like it was the equivalent to Joe Biden, Putin, any of the world leaders on the world stage visiting China. And it was just a huge pride when I witnessed that, or when I looked at the images on that. And what struck me most is how irrelevant the UWP party is, because of all their bellyaching and all their negative comments about this prime minister, a man who represents his country and represents his country so well, that no matter what they say, he is welcome at an international level. So when we talk about relevancy, you've got to weigh the welcoming that this prime minister receives in China, which is a major political influence in the world, a superpower in the world, recognizing a prime minister that we know how disparaging comments are made against him in Dominica. I saw photos of his team, and everybody looked like they were paying attention. And it was just so delightful to view that image and to just be so gleefully happy to see that a Dominican can get that type of recognition, or Dominica gets that type of recognition. That's all I'll say for now.
All right. Mr. Mills?
Yeah, man. What has struck me this afternoon.
Mr. Mills, hold on 1 second. Let's acknowledge Senior Counsel's presence. Senior Counsel, good night.
Good night, comrade. Good night. Good night.
Thanks for joining us. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Mills, go ahead.
Yeah. What struck me this afternoon is I was looking at this ceremony and the setting, and as Maurice was saying, you see our prime minister at the level of any first world leader at a meeting with the leader of China. And I asked myself, I know Dominica, there are other countries who had 20 years relationship with China, and I cannot remember having that type of reception. I may be wrong, but the fact of the reception, it tells a lot. And that is to show you how much our prime minister and our country is well recognized by the greatest country in the world, China. So that is a sign of things to come, and is a sign of the influence of Dominica on the world stage. So this is something that I remember for a very long time.
Very cool. Senior Counsel, I don't know if you were listening. We are talking briefly about the current events of our Prime Minister leading a delegation to China to celebrate 20 years of diplomatic ties, and I think it's a very important moment, and it is a symbol of the great friendship we've had in China and the tremendous benefit that we have received from that friendship. So before we go into our Grammy discussion, we just want to have a little talk on that.
Well, I thought it was a fantastic day. And remember, let's just go back in history a bit, that the Prime Minister made a decision in 2004, I think it was, to move away from Taiwan and recognize the People's Republic of China. And there are many in the country who sought to diminish that diplomatic move by him at that time. And I think he was quoted in one of the newspapers that says that China is much too powerful a country to ignore. And the friendship with China, based on what I saw today on the YouTube link that was sent out, has benefited both sides. President Xi Jinping made it very clear that he had the deepest respect for Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit and for his commitment and loyalty to the One China policy. And Prime Minister, in his response, gave a commitment to remain a loyal friend of China, recognizing the One China policy. And I think that's extremely important because President Xi Jinping said something that I think suggested that there's going to be how should I put it? I don't want to misspeak it. But that there's going to be greater China support from China for the development of Dominica in the years to come, or in the days or weeks or months or years to come. And the red carpet, the ceremonial guards, the meeting of the president of China, and having this magnificent, I don't know whether it was a lunch or just a meeting, gives you the impression or told a story that China, the president of China, has the greatest respect for our prime minister in our country. And there are many people that have gone to China to meet the Chinese president and so on. And I don't recall seeing any video similar to what I saw today. And it's important because at the stage of our development, getting the friendship and the support and from the People's Republic of China is a significant achievement. And I want to congratulate the Prime Minister on his trip to China and the great warmth with which he was embraced. I think it's a great day for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I share the sentiments of all of you. This, you know, celebration, you know, that we saw, you know, for the audio, for the pictures and the videos, you know, is just, you know, a ceremony. But I mean, we can see the tangible benefits of this visionary move, you know, that this Prime Minister made, you know, several years ago. And you know, like all of us are saying, many did not see the light. Even other Caribbean leaders were skeptical, you know, of making that move. But after our Prime Minister, at a very young age, saw what's happening out there, understood the importance of China in the world, and decided to form ties with China. Others followed suit. So, you know, this young man has always had a vision, and of course, you know, this vision has led us to, you know, to significant development by these kinds of action and decisions and policies that he has led.
Can I point something out? As you mentioned, the vision of the Prime Minister, I was told that Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit and two of the far more senior prime ministers than he was went to Venezuela in relation to the Alba Bank matter. And the more senior prime ministers agreed in principle, meaning they would sign that now and come back another time when they see how the backlash may have come, what the backlash may have been. But Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit committed Dominica to the Alba Bank and to the arrangements that were being made with the Bolivian Republic of Venezuela with Hugo Chavez as president. And we also, the very close relationship Dominica and Venezuela had, and in particular that the president Hugo Chavez had for Roosevelt Skerrit, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit. He even came to visit in Dominica once or twice, and he drove the Prime Minister around in the car and so on. And similarly, because of his commitment to Cuba, President Fidel Castro also had a very soft and warm relationship with Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit. He's able to communicate with the leaders of the First World and other countries for the benefit of our country. And he's been doing it for a very, very long time. The European Union, with the World Bank, with the Caribbean Development Bank, with the United States, with other countries. He has this gift of warmth and understanding and competence that foreign leaders and the international institution gives him the greatest respect for that. And that's to the benefit of our country. That is what I think was the message today. But there were other examples which I mentioned simply because we have not yet gone to the Grand Bay issue.
Yeah. Yep. Well, so I have decided that of course there's much more information that will come from this trip, and of course the Prime Minister, when he comes back, I'm sure he'll have a briefing, and he will inform the public on events and of this details of this visit. So I'm sure we have a lot more to discuss in the coming days and weeks about this China mission. But we're going to segue off now. We're going to segue off to our topic of discussion tonight.
Before you go to the topic, I want to give a brief view on China.
Okay.
And Dominica presence in China today. We can look at it as a historic moment for Dominica delegation to be in China celebrating or commemorating 20 years of friendly relations and cooperation. Mm-hmm. China, when you look at China, China does not offer you a carrot and at the same time holding a stick or a machete or a knife behind its back. China is sincere in what it's doing for the country. So what is happening between Dominica and China, the relationship we have with China is going to benefit us very much in the long run, and we have seen it to benefit us economically, socially, and spiritually. We can see it everywhere in Dominica where the Chinese are applying themselves to help the country. And China does not bring bombs and guns and from any military base. China is genuine in its assistance for Dominica and other third world countries. So we have to appreciate and thank the Prime Minister for taking the initiative when he did 20 years ago to open relations with China and bring Dominica and China closer together. And now they enjoy mutual respect and friendship. And we're hoping that visit to China will bring in a lot of goodies to Dominica. And everybody will be enjoying it, everybody will benefit. So again, I applaud the Prime Minister and his delegation for traveling to China on this historic moment. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Now, my friends, last Sunday, members of the opposition, the United Workers' Party, and the Freedom Party decided to go to Grand Bay to have a public meeting. And in the lead up to this meeting, they held several radio programs hosted by Johnson Boston and the Ito guy, the Freedom Party's leader, also Lennox Linton and others. And their words, their statements clearly said that they were going to Grand Bay because they wanted to enlist a group of people who were militant, okay? And they said it publicly. Grand Bay has the fighting spirit. So they were going to Grand Bay because they thought that they are not getting their way or their desire to whatever issues they have in Dominica. It's electoral reform is one of the issues, and the made up money missing and all kinds of silly claims. And it really disturbed me, and that's why I want to discuss this issue. It really disturbed me that Mr. Ito, who's from Roseau, Mr. Boston, who's from Maho, they both are public figures. They both have been, high-ranking members of Ito is now the Freedom Party's leader. Boston was a senator of the Freedom Party under the great Meridian Charles. And these guys are clearly saying to achieve their goal, their personal goal and desires, they are going to Grand Bay, and they pick Grand Bay because Grand Bay has a fighting spirit. Grand Bay has a militancy. Grand Bay have people like UNICEF, the legacy of UNICEF. And I find this as a great insult, and anybody from Grand Bay is supposed to be disgusted by this statement. Because what UNICEF fought for is nothing compared to what these people are bickering about. And that's why I invited our comrade Paul Alexander, because he's a Granby roots man. He's been a leader in the Granby community for a very, very long time. He's been in politics, in business, in education, and the whole 9 yards. So, Mr. Paul, I want to turn over to you, firstly, to give us your impression of what these guys said and did by going to Granby with that intention.
Well, I take this as a gross disrespect because these people have been vilifying Granby from day one. Remember how they treated the Prime Minister Pierre Charles, the mockery they made of him, what they said about our president, Dr. Orvin Liverpool, and to look at Granby now and pretend that you all were lovers of Granby or friends of Granby is a gross insult. Because they have never been speaking anything good about Granby in the past years. Granby is the worst place for them. So I don't see why all of a sudden you want electoral reform and it's Granby you pick as your first venue to preach electoral reform or whatever nonsense they came to Granby to do. And you know the Granby people did not take them on. They didn't get a good reception in Granby. And the time they choose to go to Granby again, that was during the 50th anniversary of the Geneva Uprising. And this year, it's not only 50th anniversary of the Geneva Uprising, it's also 50th anniversary of the Village Council in Granby and the 50th anniversary of Tradibel Cultural Group in Granby. But the most significant part is the 50th anniversary of the Geneva Revolution. And what happened during the Geneva Revolution, up till now, there are some people who are disgusted with Granby people for that. The very same people who came trying to pretend they were for Granby. And if you remember, in 1996, I believe.
1995. I know
1995. That's the only regime in the history of Dominica that came to Granby and shed innocent blood, killing a young man by the name of Hilarion Baron in cold blood. And up till now, the parents are suffering the death of this young man. And they also injured another one, and another one by the name of Keto Angwal was also killed in cold blood. So to come to Granby now and pretend that you are friends of Granby is a big insult. Now we all know Granby was the first place where that was colonized in Dominica, when a man by the name of Janot Rule came from Martinique to trade with the Caribs, and he eventually settled in Geneva, bought land from them, and started a trading business in Granby. And that's how colonialism set foot in Dominica. And we must also remember that it was the same Granby that fought for independence to end colonial domination in Dominica. So Granby now has a very rich history. And we cannot let these people come and foul it up and dirty it up. Because, as you know, UNICEF lived in St. Thomas for many years, but what some people do not know, UNICEF, as a young boy going to school, when Nassif took over the estate, Nassif started to break down people's houses toward Highland. And one of the houses that Nassif bulldozed was UNICEF's grandmother's house. And as a young boy, he had that in his heart that troubled him to see what happened to his mother's house. And he always had that in his mind, saying, one of these days, he's going to take revenge and make sure he see Nassif leaves the Geneva estate and Granby people will enjoy the lands that belong to them. So UNICEF while living in St. Thomas, he was married, he had his wife and children. One morning, something just came to his head and he said, well, this is the time to go down to Dominica to do what I had decided to do from the time I was a boy. And he just went down and he started the uprising. And he was joined by other Granby people until the estate was liberated. Mr. Nassif had to leave the estate and run. And the government bought the estate and then start selling lots to the Granby people. So that helped to extend the village because Granby was sandwiched between two hills inside a ravine. And there was no space for expansion. But with the Geneva estate being liberated, then a lot of people found land to do farming and to build their houses. Now, even during independence, Granby had the biggest contingent marching in rows under the ministry demonstrating for independence. The people who came to Granby last Sunday, none of them were involved in that. They were calling Granby people stupid to be supporting Patrick John for independence. The Freedom Party was asking for a referendum. They said Dominica was not ready for independence. And Rosie Douglas had to make sure he went all over the country, Granby with him, to tell people that we must say that we want independence. And on one occasion, the British High Commissioner came to Dominica to see if the people, to feel the pulse of the people, they were ready for independence. And that same day, Rosie had us under the ministry in the hundreds with placards and t-shirts saying independence now. Mm-hmm. And the British High Commissioner, when he saw that, he went up to the meeting with the Patrick John and his cabinet, and the opposition was also present. Eugenia Charles was the opposition leader.
Okay, Paul, I'm gonna stop you there for now.
Okay.
We are going to discuss all of that.
Yeah.
So I mean I know you have a whole historical data.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. But Morrison.
Yes, sir.
We will discuss much more historical facts about Granby and so forth. But the what I'm focusing on, and I want you to comment on that, is the way these guys regarded Granby and the Granby people as people who are, vagabonds, okay? Because the Workers' Party are looking for an uprising. They've been dreaming about May 29th, 1979 forever. All right, and it's to them, everywhere else they have gone, they failed to rally the people adequately to achieve a hostile takeover of the government, right? And they tell you directly, the Granby people can do it, right? So they see Granby people as hooligans and vagabonds, and as Paul said, they've never regarded Granby as anything worthy of anything good in the past. But all of a sudden, they're looking to use Granby people to start an uprising. Your comments?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Donnie. Well, as you can see, and I've said it several times, this party, everything they does always results in that zero sum. It's always a zero sum result for them. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. And in looking at the flyers and just listening to the comments that were being made on social media about the event in Granby, there are lots of things that kind of strike out to me in terms of what people will say. For example, they said that they were going to Granby because, as you said, they were either looking at Granbarians as vagabonds or people that they could lose, but they knew that there was a fighting spirit in Granby, that the Granby people, Dave, as Lawa pointed out before, had that spirit of revolution in them. So one of the claims that they made is that they were going back to Granby to bring back the pride of Granby and Dominicans. But the question that came to mind was, to me, was, well, who brought back pride to Dominica? It was Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit who brought back pride to Dominica. When the IMF had to implement financial constraint on a country, to me, that is taking away pride. To the point that we were referred to once upon a time as last Kakarats. Okay? That UWP party was founded by some of the most competent civil servants and private businessmen. Okay? These are the people that Dominicans gave their trust to run the country, hoping that with these men at the helm of a party, that, okay, we can see Dominica going places. I remember they had, at that time, Julius Timothy was the ace accountant auditor from Royal Bank of Canada, who was permanently assigned to, I think, AC Shillingford to kind of, he was a sort of auditor and, an accountant at the bank, and they sent him there, and he oversaid there to turn that company around. And I remember his first meeting in New York, he said that if you have a treasury, you could never grow broke. We see what these guys did. We see how these guys ruined Dominica financially. Okay? So to go down to Grand Bay and to talk about bringing back pride to Dominica, Roosevelt Skerritt is the one who brought back pride to Dominica. They talk about they wanted to ensure a Dominica where people are free to speak their mind without fear from the government. You know those guys' mantras? All of us remember it. Fear no more. But there was more victimization under these guys than anybody else. We know what they did to Jeff Scotland. We know what they did to Clarence Christian, to Norman Later, to Commissioner Desmond Blanchard and Deputy Valerie, spying on people at the Civil Service Ministry building. Okay? That's what they want to go to Grand Bay to revitalize and to revive. But they forgot that they were the people that went to Grand Bay, shed blood in Grand Bay, and want to go back, and to the point of necromancy, where they want to invoke the dead spirit of Comrade Pierre Charles and Dr. Liverpool. The very you know how denigrating these people were to these two men, and you have the I'll use a word from him, the unmitigated gall to go to Grand Bay and say that you're gonna revitalize, or you're going to bring back pride to Dominica. You're gonna invoke. You want to create an environment where people are free to speak their mind without fear of government persecution. You guys were the people that were victimizing people before. Okay? You're talking about that you want to basically, and all that is just the talk spin that I was hearing on the social media, which really got me all riled up and stuff like that. But these guys got to remember what they did to Dominicans, and especially to Grand Bayrians. And I don't know if I answered your question.
Well,
I don't want to run off on a tangent.
You have a lot more opportunity. But
yes, sir.
Before we go to Mr. Mills, Senior Counsel has to leave shortly, but I really want to hear his comments on this issue. So, Senior Counsel, please go ahead. Unmute your mic, Senior Counsel.
There is a journalist in St. Lucia who once said, "Some politicians love to piss in your eye." And I asked him what he meant by that. And he told me, "I cannot forget, and I will not forget, the disrespect, the pejorative, personal disrespect that was inflicted on Prime Minister Pierre Charles as one of the lions of Grand Bay. I will never forget the way they treated Mr. Fabian, Donnie's dad, Ed Regis, and the contempt they had for the community of Grand Bay, in which they did nothing for the 4.5 years they were there. And they went to Grand Bay in the hope and the expectation, and I forgot one more name, the disrespect to Dr. Nicholas Liverpool, who was a Granburian, as every one of you know, called him,
Born and bred black country bookie.
Dominican born and bred black country bookie. The United Workers' Party had nothing but scorn for the sons and daughters of the soil of Granby. Nothing but scorn and disrespect and hatred. And it was simply because they realized they couldn't and they had no chance or a snowball chance in hell of winning the Granby seat, persuading the people of Granby to support them. And going there, the first thing that struck me when I heard it is that you, meaning the organizers, couldn't be that goddamn stupid. Because you would think you could walk into a village of lions and lionesses. As you know, Donnie, I spent a considerable amount of time as a young lawyer in Granby.
I remember.
There are places that I could go to Granby that most people couldn't go, including the police. You know that as well as I do. I even went and met UNICEF and sat down around his concrete pot there where he used to live with some of the other guys. I forgot their names now, it's been so long. And to think that you would attract Granburians to come out to talk about something like electoral reform. And the worst part for me, which exposed the depths of the ignorance of the organizers, they were shocked that nobody turned up. They were shocked that the Granburians did not forget the disrespect to Fabian, to Ed Regis, to Nicholas Liverpool, and more importantly to Prime Minister Pierre.
And to former Minister Justin Charles also.
And Justin Charles. And they forgot that all of these individuals that I just mentioned were not fly-by-night politicians. They were deep-rooted men and women of the community and of the village and of the constituency of Granby. Pierre Charles was in the youth movement. In 1978, my recollection was that he breached prohibition by the government and took a young youth group to Cuba. You know? And he was part and parcel of the community and a teacher. And the Granburians never forgot the fact that after they played a clip from him, they would play a donkey brain.
Yeah.
That still pains me to this day, although Pierre Charles has been dead over close to 20 years. And I'll never forget as well the disrespect that they had when Pierre Charles died, or the day he died. I was called by Special Branch. I think I told you that story, Donnie.
Yeah.
To tell me, come quickly, the Prime Minister is in an extremely bad situation, or had died, or words to that effect. And I rushed up to the hospital, or I got a lift, and we parked outside, and I walked in. And some guy shouted out, yeah, the son of a, let me be careful of my word, the SOB is dead, you can't help him now. And I couldn't understand the hatred for a man who had dedicated his entire life to the people of Granby and to the people of this country, our country, and who as Prime Minister had the courage and the guts to travel around the country before his passing to explain the necessity of the stabilization program that was going to be imposed on us because of the reckless spending of the United Workers' Party. And it troubled me that the organizers did not expect to get resistance or that they expected anybody to even turn out. And I am happy with the way that the people of Granby simply ignored them because they did not deserve any respect from the people of Granby at all. And you know, Donnie, I don't know whether some will consider this a matter of a big deal or not. You will recall that when they were there, quite apart from what Paul spoke about sending the police and killing and shooting people in the foot and all kind of thing there. When they were in government, these fellas actually tried to gerrymander the boundary of Granby and pitted Sevan in order for them to win an election.
Yes, sir.
All right. But I think the core of your outrage, I think, is justified. You cannot treat the people of a constituency with the rich history of Granby with contempt and disrespect, and vilify their leaders and expect to walk in there, whether 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, and expect them to rally with your BS. Not going to work. Granby is unique in its culture, and in its philosophy, and in its politics. That much I learned when I came to Granby very often. Very, very often when Piero was alive and I represented a whole set of the young, well, I can't call them young now, but fellas from Granby. You know, and even if they supported another political party, they had respect for their leaders. So I think that you're quite right to be outraged. The disrespect that was placed on the people of this country and by its leaders, or the leaders of the people of the constituency, was nothing more than disrespectful and shameful. And I thought it was an outrage that they would think they could go there and babble their BS and expect the people of Granby to rally around them. And you know why? The people of Granby reflect the sentiment of the vast majority of the people in this country. They know what they struggled for. They know how long their struggle went on for to get what it is that they wanted for themselves, for the village, for the people and so on. And they understand the core values of the political party called the Dominican Labour Party. Understand it well. And they listen. The Granby people listen. They're on radio, they listen to the television, they were following matters. And they were not going to turn up. They were not going to turn up to what was, I think, a disrespectful action by going there to try to convince them to rally with them, the leaders and members of a party that had disrespected them for so long. Sorry I took so long, Donnie, but as you know, all the names that you mentioned, Pierre Charles, Mrs. Charles, your dad, Edward Regis, and Nick Liverpool, I knew well. And I understood what they went through when they were being subjected to the most violent, disrespectful attacks and criticism. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to say. There are other issues, as you pointed out, historical issues, current issues, political issues. But I think it's important that we explain to the people why you and I and others are so outraged that they would try such a thing and expect it to work. So Donnie, forgive me if I have to run. If you have a question for me, I'll answer it, but you have enough guests for the night and I have things to do in the morning.
Comrade, no problem. We appreciate you always. You know, we know you're a busy man, so thank you for your information and you're always on point as usual.
Anytime. Good night to your panel
Yeah.
and to the listeners. God bless.
God bless, bro. Yeah. So, Mr. Mills, yeah, you know, we've talked about this extensively, and now is your turn to express your thoughts on what happened.
Yeah, well, there are so many issues in that. Well, the first part that have me when I listened to Bernard Ito, the leader of the Freedom Party. Well, I've been in the Freedom Party, and I can't remember his name showing anywhere in the Freedom Party. But the point is, why would you, after how many years of trying to bring up, I can say, an insurrection, or try to get people to rebel against a government because you are not interested in participating in election, because you don't, it seems like you have not learned how to get your feet on the ground and how to integrate with people and to really understand what that make people move. And then just because you remember the history of Granby, where you remember that the people of Granby stood for their rights, and they stood by their rights, and they got through, and they got a hearing. And you remember that for independence, when the Freedom Party was strong in opposition, and they were trying to delay the independence, that the people of Granby stood with Rosie and stood with the Labour Party, and they make sure that they went around Dominica to rally the cause of the government. Now you have a cause of electoral reform because you do not want to do what political parties do. That is going on the grounds, working in the community, and really caring about people. You want to go to the people of Granby, who have a rich history of community activity, community development. Granby is one of the places in Dominica, if you look at the history, where they had the most groups, volunteer groups, working on various projects and working on projects to develop the country. They had a library, plus they had a cultural group. And if anybody, if these politicians knew anything about politics, if they knew anything about the people of Granby, they would not come to Granby and tell them that they come to get their spirit of resistance. Granby is they are people of principle. The opposition fight for electoral reform have no principle in it. You do not expect people who stand on the basis of principle to come and help you in a fight where you, without thinking, because you so want to get into power, you want to deprive people their right to vote. Dominicans living overseas. That is what you're crying for. You expect the Granby people to come with you to block their people like Paul Alexander, Donny. You understand? There are people that Granby is one of the places that have a lot of Dominicans living overseas, and they have that communication with them. You expect the Granby people to come with you to fight to stop these people from participating in their local elections because you do not understand people. Because I can tell you, I worked in Granby as a police in all my ranks, from a constable, corporal, sergeant, all the ranks. And so I worked and participated in Granby in different levels. And I can tell you, and I work all over Dominica in the various districts. Granby people are the most loving people in Dominica, and they are most respectful. They respect people in authority, but they stand for the right. And if you see you dealing with the Granby people, you realize when they're standing, they always stand on a principle. They stand on principle, and they're not even standing because of greed or things that they want. They just have a principle. You'll not move them on the principle. And I can tell you, the Granby people is the most loving people in Dominica. And if you bring in a cause, you don't have to go to Granby for them to stand with you. People who believe in justice, you don't have to come there and tell Granby people how to fight for their rights. What you wanted them to fight for is not a right. You wanted to use them. You wanted to use them, and they knew that. And again, as I said, I have been in Granby for a while, and after the meeting, I met Granby people. And it's a simple thing. Granby people said they just did not want to go around them for them to believe they have support from them. No wonder they were crying and saying, why the Granby people not coming? Because Granby people understand justice, and they understand what is right, and they refuse to stand with that. And you know, the Granby people took that so seriously that they did not even know anything. They did not look at them on most of the Granby people did not even look at them on YouTube or wherever they were carried out. All they know, they just ignore them completely, and that is one of the that will show you how Granby people are astute and how they know, how they recognize what is right and what is wrong. They actually did not, most of them, they did not even look at what was taking place because they didn't want, something when you go on Facebook and you watch anything, the Facebook will show you that person is viewing. They completely abandon them and then they crying, saying that somebody told them not to go. Granby people, I think that once again, Paul Alexander, Donny, your people show Dominicans how to deal with people who want to use them. And that's a good example.
Yes. Thank you, my friend.
Correct.
Thank you, my friend. If I come back to Paul Paul so articulately explained, you know, the story of UNICEF. Buddha, we call him Buddha, right? Who because of his determination, you know, to fight what he thought was injustice. Thank God today that people of Grand Bay have access to land, Geneva Estate, where the government sold the land to them at very cheap prices after it was acquired from the Asif. Okay, UNICEF stood on principle. He left St. Thomas, left his family, and came down to lead a revolution against injustice. And through his sacrifice and his bravery and his courage, Granby people have benefited from this greatly. And to use UNICEF's name and its legacy to try to tie it into your stupidity, ignorance, and selfishness, you know, is a complete disgrace, is an insult. Because these people are not fighting for anybody but their own selfish agenda. And how dare you invoke the name of UNICEF? How dare you invoke the name of Pierre Charles? How dare you invoke the name of Dr. Liverpool? How dare these people? You know, and that makes me very, very angry. Because Granby people are very assertive, right? They will not allow people to victimize them, right? But they are not fools in anybody's game to be used to fight another man's war for his own selfish agenda. Paul, I yield to you. Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I recall, at a very young age, I couldn't vote. I can remember the disrespect the political parties like the Freedom Party came to Granby with. I remember the Freedom Party very long ago, as I said, when I was not even at voting age yet, came to Granby to keep a public meeting. And there was this man called Mr. Alvin Ammon Trading. At that time, Mr. Raylan St. Louis was the representative for Granby. And he was honored by the British government with a title that was called an MBE, Member of the British Empire. And when Mr. Ammon Trading took the stage, he referred to Raylan St. Louis and he said, Monsieur, Madame, you can garder un homme comme Raylan St. Louis, you can di, you buy un MBE. Ou savez ça, ça mean? Un Malbuic Egua. Right in Granby, from the Granby people, he came with that disrespect.
Wow.
And today, remnants of the Freedom Party coming to Granby for respect and for support. Now, Granby people are so disciplined. When people think Granby people are hooligans or they are, how you call it, no good.
Mm-hmm.
You remember when the Labour Party tried to keep a public meeting in Salisbury? How they came up violently to stop that meeting from happening.
Yes.
Now look at Granby now. They come to Granby to keep a meeting and Granby did not do anything like that. No violence, nothing like you all cannot have all your meeting there.
No
back where you
threats.
come from. Granby just ignore them totally. Because Granby people know what they are about. Because coming and make noise in the village is not going to affect nobody in Granby because Granby people know where they stand. There's a man in Granby, the same man we call Sui, Anthony Grell. Anytime these people used to come to Granby to keep a meeting, they must have a question time. And Grell would take the mic And he would go up, and and only one thing he would say, "Good night, Granby people. Are you for sale?"
That's true.
And everybody would
Yeah.
shout, "No!" And he give them the mic, and that's it.
Yeah.
And nothing else to say. So Granby people are not for sale. Granby people know what they are standing for. They stood for justice. They're standing for progress, and they're standing for improvement of the people's lives. So these people, I hope they got what they were looking for, a totally being ignored by the Granby people. Because as you said, I don't know why is Granby they chose as their first step towards their electoral reform nonsense. Because as Cleville Mills said, you come into Granby, where is the most populous village in the diaspora. Go to England, you go to the States, you go to St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. Martin, Antigua, Guadeloupe. You find the majority of the people are from Granby. And you want a reform where you're trying to tell the Granby people that you don't want their brothers and sisters who are living overseas to come and vote. Does that make sense? So who in Granby would support you on that nonsense? Nobody. Now, and the thing about it is, while they are trying to show or pretend to be against diasporans voting, they are just against the Labour Party supporters in the diaspora against them voting. But the same complaint, the same thing they say about Labour supporters in diaspora coming to Dominica to vote. You think their supporters in diaspora don't come to Dominica to vote? Yes, they do. So going to Granby, that was just a mockery. That's how I look at it. That was just a mockery to be in Granby, trying to rally Granby people on your side. Granby people for so many years have been rallying behind the Dominican Labour Party. They know why they are there and why they will continue to support the Dominican Labour Party. But I think they will not even think of going back to Granby to keep any other meeting. Because if they look at their record in Granby in all the elections, the highest vote a double candidate has received in Granby is 400 votes, and that was Mr. James Alexander, who was a very loving principal in Granby. Everybody in Granby had loved James Alexander. Everybody. There was a time James Alexander was the principal of the Granby school, and the education department wanted to transfer him to another village. And the people of Granby, they went down and they locked the school gate, and they put in their children uniform on them and school bag, and they had a demonstration to say James Alexander cannot be transferred anywhere. And they had to leave James Alexander in Granby. And imagine that same loving son of the soil, James Alexander, put up his name as a candidate for a WP. And the same people who love him so much as a principal, they turn their backs against him. What does that tell you? The Granby people, they have their conviction and they know what they're about. They know what they are fighting for. They know what they want. They know where they are going. So to come Granby and make this nonsense, disrespecting the spirit of Pierre Charles, Ed Regis, John Fabian, Dr. Orville Liverpool was a disgrace. And they should be condemned for that totally.
Yeah, but Paul, when United Workers' Party was in government, you mentioned it earlier, and I can tell the personal story of Hilarion Barron because I was there.
Okay.
Hilarion Barron was shot about 6 feet from where I was standing.
Wow.
I watched him cut his, cry out in pain. Now, that was in 1995, the very same year the United Workers' Party came into power. Okay? And in their estimation, in their opinion, the way they characterize Grammy people, they were criminals, they were hooligans, and they deserve to be shot like dogs in the street. Right?
Yeah.
That's how they saw Grammy people at the time. Right? Today, you're in opposition. Now, the same people that you came to Granby to open fire on them with machine guns wanted to fight for you. You know, I mean, are these guys really serious? Are they losing their minds? Right? And I'm telling you, when they complain about Dominica is not a real country, brother man, in many other jurisdictions, Edison James and his cabinet and the police would have to account for the murder of that young man. Because I can tell you, without fear of contradiction, that boy was throwing no stones. That boy was sitting on a step by Ma JJ.
Okay.
And he got shot. Okay? He was in front. And when the police opened fire, they were under no threat. They were leaving Granby. People were just standing and looking at them. You know? And they've opened fire down the alley from up by Coffee in the open fire. Wantonly. One guy got grazed in his head. Luckily, by the grace of God, he didn't get shot in his head. He got grazed. One got shot in the foot, and Hillary and Barron got shot in the stomach. And today, after you go and shoot them like dogs, and soon afterwards, again, there was another shooting. Remember when they shot Keto?
Right.
And they shot Kwame. Kwame also died too.
Right.
Right? They shot Kwame dead. They shot Keto dead. And they shot this guy, we call him Chim. He's infirm now, he's crippled.
Right, that's correct. That's right.
You know? That's the only government that has come to Granby and open fire on people.
Yes.
You know, and then you want to come, you know, that was a few decades ago. It wasn't that long.
No.
And then you come into Granby and try to tell them that, you know, come fight for you. You have the spirit of fighting. When you were in government, they were like dogs to be shot. No, you want them to be your soldiers.
Right.
I mean, my friends. I mean, I really understanding what's happening. And these guys are so out of touch and tone deaf and arrogant to think you can just come and use people like that for electoral reform, for your lies and your nonsensical bickering every day. Come on, Morrison.
Yes,
man.
Yeah, Donnie, man.
I speak that way because I saw those things with my own eyes, brother.
Yeah, I can feel the passion in this. I can feel the passion because that's an experience that you have to live with, and it's just the disrespect that these people have, and they have a president who always phrases the moniker "no face, bold face." And that is the mentality that they have, the disregard for people that they think would have forgotten all the disparaging comments that they've made, all the atrocities that they've committed against the Granby community. I mean, this is a party, people think that, it's not long ago, according to you. I mean, these guys have really done Dominica really bad. I mean, these guys have done things to Dominica that we've never experienced in our lifetime until they came into power. Now, when I listen to yourself and to Lau and just reminiscing about Granby, I mean, Granby to me, after I added to my vocabulary, Granby to me always was a part of Dominica that was always wanted to annex themselves from Dominica, You always look at Granby as another part of Dominica. I mean, the only thing that I cannot remember that Granby couldn't build was a soccer team. Maybe they've done it
Oh yeah, they had one.
after I left.
They had a very
But
good one
everything Roseau had, Granby had, cricket, cultural group, music, basketball team, anything Roseau had, the capital, because it was Roseau and the surrounding of Roseau. Granby had a team that could come down to Roseau and compete. You know, that's the amount of talent that was over there. You know, it was almost that this little community, they that wanted to annex themselves, they could even run themselves with the amount of talent that they had in that little enclave in Dominica. So when I listen to these guys and I listen to all their music on social media, and you know, one of the blurbs that they had was to revitalize the hospitals and the healthcare centers, you know, making sure that all medical supplies were on hand and available. They forget that they were the ones that introduced hospital user fee, to the point that people who had outstanding debt refused to go to the hospital for medical treatment. Again, it was not until Prime Minister Skerrit visited a Kalinago individual, where the man was sick at his home. And instead of going to the hospital to be treated, when he asked them why this guy is not at the hospital, they said, well, we have outstanding debt. That is why we're treating him at home. And the Prime Minister took action immediately and canceled all Kalinago hospital debt, which he later extended to Dominicans, and out of which came the Yes We Care program. So when these people talking about going to Granby and going back to instill pride in Dominica, who took away the pride? Who took away the basic amenities that Dominicans enjoyed, that Dominicans had, you know, didn't know that there were any restrictions, you know, like a user fee for medical care. We didn't have that before. It's until they came into power that we had that thing was introduced, you know. They talk about taking away powers from the stronghold of foreigners and foreign powers that have a stronghold on our people. Who more than UWP have foreign influence and foreign backings and consultants behind them? United Workers' Party is the first political party to use a foreign handler as consultants in a political campaign. The UW is the only political party that wants to use a foreign entity to manage our CBI program. They were the first government to use a foreign operative of a bunch of white men to smear our Prime Minister and his government. Okay? The same people in that party is the same people that don't want to forgive Patrick John and Patrick John apologists for the white people collaboration they were talking that Patrick John was collaborating with. The same people, there are people in there that exposes this African liberation. And to this, they cannot forgive Patrick John for that. Yet still, they're the ones that going out and getting all these white handlers and these white mercenaries to attack our government. Fear No More was basically a dog whistle that the common man, the same common man that they kind of looked on, you know, in a sort of way, that allowed the common man to feel emboldened that he could do whatever he wanted without fear of retribution. This United Workers' Party has done so much in the terms of just altering the mind of Dominicans. I don't know if you guys remember a time when Eugenia Charles had banned carnival time curfew. It was only at a certain time. By 6 o'clock, everything was shut down. Okay? Saint Dominica was banned because of, we know what happened, because of the fire that burned Eric and severely burned Lance Rupert and another person. When these guys came into power, these guys lifted all of that. They say, hey, I know it's a cultural thing. I'm not bashing anybody for that. But the reason that Sensi was banned, the reason that there was a curfew was because of the attempted coup during Patrick John and because of the death from the Sensei. So in order to further that and not have people, if you have some sort of issue with somebody, you just wait carnival time and you just take out whatever revenge you want. But the responsible governments that were there kept those things in check so that, you would keep your citizenry safe. But then you have this rogue party, I call them. They just come in and just did basically what they want. And to talk about doing nothing, they did nothing. Look at the 4 years that they basically spent in power. All they did was just basically plunder the treasury. So now they're hell-bent now on attacking Roosevelt Skerrit for all the progress that they see happening in their eyes, because they can't believe that they couldn't even start projects like that. Far less to now wonder, well, where is all of this money coming from? Or where is it, hidden, that we have all these projects building Dominica? And that is just a thorn in their side, especially that recent visit, especially that visit to China. Because when all is said and done, the United Workers' Party, their leadership team, they don't have relevance in Dominica. They don't have relevance on the outside world. People don't listen to him because their platform is only for Dominica. It's as though that it doesn't even reach overseas. Because can you imagine if what they say about the Prime Minister, you think China would be welcoming him, will be welcoming him to China and giving him that type of reception with all what they're saying? And China has, I read it today. The investment China has, the amount of money China has invested in Dominica so far is $500 million. $500 million. That is money that we don't have to pay back. You think Xi Jinping would be willing to drop another half a billion if things wasn't on the up and up? And that the Prime Minister can go to China in confidence, knowing that he kept his end of the bargain. So when you talk about going down to Granby and trying to invoke the spirits of Dr. Liverpool, Donny's father, Pierre Charles, and all the people that were forward thinking and wanted to see Dominica develop into the country that Roosevelt Skerrit is continuing with, I wonder what they were thinking. And I'll yield.
Yes, my friend. I cannot fathom. I cannot comprehend that some people can be so shameless. I can't. You can be so shameless. You have the audacity to even put Pierre Charles' name on your poster, on your flyer. And to mention Pierre Charles' name in your mouth. And Dr. Liverpool names in your mouth. And our friend Edridge's, when he died, you all mocked his death. These people think we forget. Right? But they're making a sad mistake. Granby, most of all people don't forget. Right? And the Granby, that, Granby has changed. Granby has changed in many ways. But Granby has always been a very proud, assertive people. And Morris was making the point. That's an oasis of talent. Talk about basketball and cricket. Lambert Henderson and Boniface Xavier. Look, we have our young Afanas in the West Indies team. The Moore brothers, the Ansem brothers, the Grell brothers, Midnight Groovers, Traddy Bell. Talk about talent.
Talent, yes, sir.
Talk about talent. A proud people, a people who don't take nonsense. Do not take nonsense. Will not be pushed around. And for you to have the audacity to even think that you can lure Grambians into your foolish attempt, as Mr. Mills said, to start an insurrection. You feel people are that stupid? They have no sense of awareness, of no sense of pride. After you denigrate their son of the soil. Oh, dear, these people. Oh, dear, these people. But, you know, before I go to Mr. Mills, this shows you that the Workers' Party and the opposition, these people have no sense of nationhood. They have no sense of time, right? They're deluded in their minds and so desperate that they will try anything to unseat the government, not by election, by the ballot, but by a coup, by a hostile overthrow. So you see, they've tried Salisbury, they've tried Marigot, they tried Roseau in 2017. They've gone around the country, and they cannot find people who will believe in their stupid mission, idea, belief that the government must go by some hostile activity. So the last ditch, I mean, you have to be desperate to go to Granby, right? The last ditch effort was to go to Granby.
But Donnie, if I'm going to Granby and I'm trying to gain support from Granby, won't you start by apologizing to Granby people? You come in there and you start. Wouldn't you just start off by apologizing for all what you said about Granby people?
That's a good point.
Just get that off the ground.
That's a good point. And they didn't have to go there for no meeting to apologize, because that apology is long overdue.
Absolutely.
Okay. Don't apologize because you want to go there for a meeting. When you come when you come over there and you shoot our young men dead in cold blood,
apologize then.
In fact, that's unforgivable. You should go to jail for that. You understand? You should be tried and go to jail for that, because it was murder. Right? But you're right, they owe Granby a lot of apologies. Unending apologies for what you've said about Pierre Charles and about Dr. Liverpool and about, you know, I don't even talk about my dad. Ed Regis, you know. But Mr. Mills, I'll let you have the floor before.
You know, it's a lack of principle, you know, with the opposition. It's a lack of principle. As we said in the beginning of the program, they want the Granby people to take up their cause, but the cause is not a just cause. It is not a cause that is based in what, you know, like they say, in politics, you have to address the bread and butter issues of the people. The thing that the people care about, the thing that they're concerned about. But you notice that the opposition, they are always about power. They attack the appointment of a chief of police. As far as they're concerned, the chief of police is a very powerful person. They attacked the appointment of all presidents. This our current president, our president before Excellency Charles Sovereign. They attacked the president, Eliud Williams. Well, Dr. Liverpool was first appointed by the Workers' Party, but when they lost office, they maybe expected Dr. Liverpool to do something. I don't know what they wanted him to do. And because he was serving as a president, I mean, Dr. Liverpool, I mean, a man who is well recognized in the Caribbean, they call him a black, how is it, black bread country bookie.
Dominican born and bred black country bookie.
Yeah.
That's what Lennox Linton.
That's what Lennox Linton said. That's how. And then when President Liverpool died, he disrespected him in death. He was the leader of the opposition. He couldn't afford to go to the funeral as a leader of the opposition. My point is, these people, they are not interested in people, they're interested in power. So they want to use electoral reform. And they have been fighting, they say they have been fighting for electoral reform. They have been talking about electoral reform for the past how many years? Because what happened? When they actually lost the election in 2005, our Prime Minister Kerry was a young man. Because of the support they had from SCL at the time, we did not know. They thought they had the funds to just run over. They bring the people from overseas to vote. It wasn't a problem then. Because they had funds from SCL. And from the time they realized they lost the election, that's the time they started saying that the rules are not good. Granby people, like the rest of Dominica, has not bought into that. They have not bought into that. And you cannot come and get people to stand with you when they are not interested in what you're fighting for. Unless you believe these people are so violent and they're so anti-establishment that anything against an establishment, they'll stop.
They believe they're stupid.
What's that?
They believe that they're stupid.
And they believe, yeah, they could use them.
That's what, yeah.
They believe that they could use them. But what I'm saying is, the people of Grand Bay, as we said earlier, they have a wide base of people in the diaspora. Don't talk about Tedmond. But the point is, when you have to think of all the issues that they talk about when it comes to electoral reform, is to deprive a Dominican living overseas from voting. They want to make transporting people to Dominica bribery. They want to change the law of bribery, you know, and tell you once you pay a person passage to come to Dominica, that is bribery. They forget the thing about corruptly, you know, corruptly, because why? Corruptly means to say a person who doesn't have the support of a party, because you pay their passage, they're going to vote, but a person who is already in support, you cannot bribe them. And they know that, you know. But they can go on the radio and say, once a person is transported and they come along to vote, that is bribery. So that is one. Then they say once your name is on the list for 5 years, or more than 5 years, it should automatically come out of the list. Then when going through the different debate, they realize that they have a difficulty, because since 2005, when they take the matter to court, when they said that people who overseas for more than 5 years, they didn't have the proof, but the judge had a ruling. Even if a person is away for more than 5 years, the fact that the name is on the list, they're entitled to vote. And they tried everything. Now they are trying to get their own definition of what absence means. And they try to bring it to residents. But we have the case in St. Kitts. Where St. Kitts interpret domicile, and they tell you, once you, and they bring it on even to a person who's a child of a citizen of St. Kitts, they can come and register and vote. And you don't have to be living there, you don't have to be resident there once you're a citizen. So the people do not buy that. What is the other thing they have? ID card. I honestly, if I had to say, I don't think we need ID card to vote. Maybe I could accept for modernization, you can have a card, but it doesn't have to be an ID card. We have like St. Lucia, like other places, quite apart from the voter ID card, they could use any other ID card to vote. So why you want to make it an issue? that for purpose of electoral reform, just because you want to say you want ID card, especially ID card, you want to stall the electoral process and you want grand people to come with you. The only reason why you want to stall you want ID card again is because you want to stop, you want to frustrate, you want to restrict the people in the diaspora from coming to Dominica and vote. Grand Bay people and other Dominicans will not stand for it. So they do not have a case when it comes to what the people are interested in. The case is they want to be in power, so if they could get Grand Bay people to cause problem, there will be confusion and disorder. And out of the disorder, they would like to rise to the government, even if it means that they have to burn the whole country down and come and rule over the ashes. So I want to really applaud the people of Grand Bay. I have always admired them, and I understand them. I understand them very well. And the Grand Bay people can show you they know what they're about. They will not even be curious about you coming there to Grand Bay and coming and see you. And Grand Bay people stand right, stand firm. And that is why the Workers' Party, I don't think they learn, though, Donnie. I don't think they learn. I don't think they learn, from that. I know between now and whatever time, they'll come back with some other try, because what they've been doing, they've been trying all type of things. All type of things. Do you know the workers, people, the opposition, they like to piggyback on a crowd. Was it last, I think it was last, how you call it again? Last independence celebration. Yeah, it was last independence celebration. So it was after this president was appointed. Do you know that these people tried to come to Roseau after the rally and stay on the side of the road, hoping that the people that passing coming from the rally would form they'll get a platform there? So these people, they do not know how to draw people to them. So they go in where they hear the thing is, and they see they can get their share. So they are not people that have original thoughts. They don't appreciate people. They don't understand how people move, what that really draw people attention, what that cause people to stand up. I think people are satisfied with what the government is doing. We know of all the work that the government is doing. You see the Prime Minister, see what's happening in China today. Okay? So I am saying, Grand Bay people, keep on standing, and the Dominican people understand the plight of, or they understand the principle of Grand Bay people. And I think that is another nail in the coffin of the opposition, because they have to go back to the drawing board and they will have to think again how they can get people. But they must realize that people, Dominicans, are not interested in their cause. The cause they are bringing is not that of the people. It is their own cause. And thank you to Grand Bay people.
Yes, Mr.
Mills, to your point, let me just add. I was listening to you about ID cards. So let me paint this scenario for you. So if I'm required to use an ID card to go and vote, is it possible, or is there a possibility that somebody can bribe me on election day, offer me money in exchange for my ID card? Because the ID card is what I'm going to use to identify me for voting. So somebody comes around with money, gives me a certain amount of money and says, hey, I don't want you voting, so here's X amount of dollars or whatever it is. At the end of the election, at the end of the cycle, at the end of that election day, I'll give you back your card.
But
Can a scenario like that exist?
There's information that in Antigua, that happened in Antigua. So if you have to think of it, you say you have ID cards to stop corruption or to stop people from voting for you. But look at another thing you bring. Where a person can sell their ID card to make sure that they don't vote or whatever it is. So trying to make it look like you want free and fair election. I think what I'm saying is the Workers' Party, they are not interested in free and fair election. They want to have an excuse to complain about the election when they lose. So the idea of the ID card, as you just make the point, that people I know, they sell the ID cards. So that's a bribery with ID cards. So they're not interested in fair election. They just want to have their way to see if they can vote. Yeah.
But let me go back to Paul. Paul, it is interesting. I mean, Mr. Alexander, and it's interesting that the Freedom Party have fused themselves and their identity and ideology with the Workers' Party. Freedom Party has no independent ideas. Freedom Party is dead. Okay, so Ito and Bosso and Vital, they just join on the Workers' Party because they all speak the same language, sing from the same hymn book. It's the same nonsense. Now, Paul, you experience living in Granby and Dominica under the Freedom Party. All right?
Yeah.
And under the Freedom Party, Pierre Charles was one of two people, maybe three people who kept winning his seat in Granby. And I can say, as a young boy growing in Granby, Freedom Party deprived Granby of a lot of things, right? For one, I remember the Freedom Party came and we had one playing field in center. Remember that?
Yeah.
They came, I think, before 1980-85 election. They did the playing field and left it like that. And it took the determination and the courage of a few young men and women in Granby, of which I was part of, led by people like my dad and Willie Favre, to actually intrude on government land without permission and started a playing field in Geneva. And the product you see today is because of that bold decision made by people in Granby. And of course, people like you played your part. Was in Dominic, you sent funds. I remember you all sent the what do you call it? The seats. Remember that?
Right.
Right. So it is very rich that of a party who really had no use for Granby is now coming to Granby and joining the Workers' Party to come to Granby to try to enlist or solicit, whatever you call it, the people of Granby to fight for their cause. Would you care to comment on that, Mr. Paul Alexander?
Yeah, and I would add to that, when Hurricane David struck in 79, that time we had the government of Oliver James Seraphin. And then he was getting assistance from US aid. And he came down to Dominica with a lot of galvanized and lumber, 2x4s that OJ distributed to people.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Freedom Party won the election in 1980, Virginia Charles sent the police to Granby. Well, that was where I'm from. I'm not sure if that happened in other constituencies where building material was distributed. But the police came to every home in Granby where building materials were stored. People didn't have time to use it yet to repair their homes. And they took all the galvanized, all the wood, the 2x4, whatever, and they took it to the police station and left it outside there in sun and rain. And this thing stayed there and rot because Virginia Charles was not pleased that Oliver Seraphin had distributed building materials to people. I had some building materials by my house. and the police came for it and took it by the police station, and other people had. And all the material stayed there to rot in sun and in rain. So this was a disgrace for the government to come and treat the people of Granby like that. As I said, I don't know if this happened in other constituencies where I can speak for Granby. So today, to have Ito and Boso and them coming to Granby, and I believe the reason why they came to Granby, they must have heard that there are a few people in Granby putting out videos talking about the village, and they think, well, it was the entire Granby that was like that. But the people who are doing that, they have no influence in Granby. These people would run for the UWP. They would not even get 5 votes. I'm telling you. So we are at a stage now where Granby has matured, where Granby has developed. And Granby will not stand for the nonsense of the opposition, whether Freedom Party or United Workers' Party. And United Workers' Party has no good record in Granby, no good record anywhere in Dominica. Because while they're calling Skerrit, Prime Minister Skerrit, a dictator, the first dictator we had in Dominica was Edison James. Because in Maho, on 26 February 1996, he imposed a state of emergency to prevent the Freedom Party from keeping a meeting because there was a by-election to happen the next day, and impose a state of emergency in Maho, so that Freedom Party could not keep a meeting. Now, under Prime Minister Skerrit, no matter what meeting they ask for, what rally, what demonstration, they have never been denied permission. They're given permission to do what they want to do. And that's the only government, really, that has never denied the opposition when they plan to keep a meeting and say they cannot have the meeting. So we are moving forward in Granby with the Labour Party. There is no turning back because we fought hard, we worked hard to have what we have. And when we're talking about disrespect and so, even Issa Bantan, they have criticized and say, Issa Bantan, the way he speaks, he cannot speak English properly. They criticize. So today now, come to Granby looking for, what did they come to Granby to look for? I don't know. Do you have any idea what they came to look for, Donnie?
Well, my friend, like I said before, earlier tonight, the only reason they came to Granby is because they have tried to mobilize a violent crowd to force the government. And I'm not making it up. That's what they've been saying themselves, right? They say the government must go. They can't wait till election. They have to act, boots on the ground, by any means necessary. All right? That's their own words. And they have tried all around the country to mobilize that kind of support, to incite people to get a sufficient number of people who are angry, who are determined to go cause mayhem in the country and to topple the government. And they say those things. They say it. It's all recorded. Right?
And you know, time is against them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Time is against them because the international airport is under construction. Time is against them because the tramway is moving rapidly. Time is against them because geothermal is moving rapidly. So when all these projects come on stream and being realized that the projects open, could you imagine when there will be an opening ceremony for the international airport, what that is going to look like and what kind of blow that's going to deal to the opposition and the tramway and the stuff. So right now, They are desperate because so much development is happening that they see their hopes of ever coming back in government rapidly fading away. So they want a revolution. They want bloodshed. They want to do something that will turn the country into chaos. And the international community, they will be, you see what's happening in Dominica? The government is killing people, blah, 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 looking for international support, looking for sympathy. But after being in government for 20 years plus, the Prime Minister has already mellowed. He knows what they want, what they're after, and he will never give them the opportunity to get what they're looking for. The people are educated in Dominica. They know what is good for them and what is not good for them. They know definitely the opposition is not good for them. So they will not rally to the opposition. They will stick to Labour. And going to Granby, they will not come back because they realize they made a big mistake, didn't get what they wanted. They will look at the next place. And you know, that has broken their momentum, saying what the response they get in Granby, that has killed them. They have not even spoken of another electoral reform rally anywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Because hold on, Morrison.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
What do they always ask on the radio? They ask this question on the radio very frequently. Why aren't the Dominican people getting angry? They always ask that question. Linton says it all the time. He says, I don't know what it's going to take to make Dominicans angry. So after they have exhausted all other avenues, all other constituencies, they decided, you know what? Granby people have a fighting spirit. That's how they put it. Right? Granby people are easily angered, right? Easily manipulated and used. And they can fight. Right? And that is why they chose to go there on the 50th anniversary of the Geneva Revolution.
Right.
All right? It's not coincidence. But, you know, these people are delusional, you know, and they are really out of touch with reality. Because
Donnie, there's nothing happening in other constituencies, in other villages that does not happen in Granby. Housing revolution is happening everywhere. It's happening in Granby also. Roads rehabilitation is happening everywhere. It's happening in Granby also. Look, the European Union has already booked how many million? 13 million or 15 million for the Lubia to Bagatelle Road. That's the same thing that's happening anywhere, but they're trying to fool Granby people to say, well, you see, you all are neglected. They are not studying you. They forget you. But what we see happening in other villages is also happening in Granby.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is an affront to it should be. I know it is for most people in Granby. It is an affront. It is an insult, right?
Yeah.
That we and I personally will never forgive these guys for the ridicule of our hero Pierre Charles. When this man spoke as a prime minister, they would have a donkey brain after he speaks.
Yeah.
All right. And you know the regard, the high regard that we have for Pierre Charles, not just Granby, but Dominica, for his incredible sacrifice. He gave his life to his country. He died fighting to rescue this country from its economic woes that the Workers' Party put it in. Okay? That weighed on him very, very heavily. And, you know, contributed to his ill health. Right? The stress of it all. And to insult him and to come and believe you could just come back to Granby like nothing, like it never happened. What do you take people from Granby for? To call a great jurist, Dr. Liverpool, highly regarded across the world, to call him a born and bred black country bookie.
Hmm.
When our friend, Ed Regis died, our pal rep, another man who served this country with honor and distinction his entire adult life. You mock his death. You laugh at him when he died. Made all kinds of horrendous claims and allegations about his manner of death. And then you want to come to Granby and talk about they have a fighting spirit. To fight for your nonsense, your electoral reform. You remember the same when you were in office. The only electoral reform measures you try to take was to gerrymander the boundaries in Granby.
That's right.
To gerrymander the boundaries, to manipulate the votes, to defeat Pierre Charles. You know, these are some depraved people, desperate people. My friend Morrison.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add to what you and Lau were saying. So because of the result, because there was a no-show in Granby or very little support in Granby, they claimed that Granby people were afraid to come out because of fear of victimization.
That's what they always say everywhere they go.
But that's an oxymoron because you're going there to start a revolution. You're going to the people, to the place that have the people that have the fighting spirit. And when they sit down, they ain't join you in whatever you participating in. You turn around, you says, "Oh well, they scared of victimization." I mean, so which is it? You go there to initiate a movement. No traction, no relevancy, and then you claim, "Hey, they're not coming out because of fear," and not because of your past, your rhetoric. I mean. As Lau said,
not just your rhetoric.
From village to village, there's no traction.
Your treatment of them, your disregard, your callous disregard and disrespect for them, and what they stood for.
And what
they stand for.
I mean, with relationship, you have to respect other people. You have to show a caring and nurturing attitude. So you don't victimize people, and then on top of that, come and just think, well, hey, let's go. We've got a new enemy. We've got a new mission. Let's go attack some. You have to come and soothe the wounds of the past. You have to. I mean, that's just human reality. That's human condition. I mean, the only person that forgives it and forgets is God. Human beings, yes, they will say they will forgive you, but after a bunch of counseling and stuff, but they don't forget. They use the past, they'll bring up the past to say, well, you remember, you said this about me, but look at us now. We can break bread together and stuff like that. The past is the past, but they remind you of it, although they've overcome that incident. But yet still, you haven't created a situation like that where you can come in and you can break bread. You have to show people that your intentions is good, that you have an intention to mobilize people and to move people forward. You do this by meeting people, going out and whatever activity. I mean, you're criticizing the do nothing day, that because the government is going out on Saturdays now, you build up this rhetoric now that instead of painting and young people to paint and do stuff, you're going out and painting people's houses. Brother man, that is not the point. As a political person, the fact that people are going out, they're going out to break bread, to build a camaraderie, to put their face in their constituents' face. When they go out to paint, what's happening? People are gathering, they're playing music, they're cooking a broth on the side, and everybody gathering around, whether they're playing games, whether they're laughing and they're reminiscing. You can even get people freedom rights and blues and whoever it is, because there's an activity going on in the community. But because of your attitude, you're a person that you're not a common person, you're not a commonly person, you have difficulty interacting with people. So because you have that type of attitude, you don't know how to bridge that gap. You build a rhetoric in your head and say, well, hey, they do nothing. They look at what they're doing. They're spending money and instead of employing people to go and paint. That's not what it's about. You're missing the point, and you can't change that narrative, because when you look at the activities, it's community building. It's people interacting with people, and if you can keep your constituents active through that, then your do nothing nonsense is just going to go to the wayside, and there's no benefit in that for you. And the government, it's another win for the government.
Yeah, you make a very good point, Mr. Mills, to add to what he's saying. And then, you know,
what I would add to all that discussion is the opposition. You know, somebody told me today, we must stop saying and telling or giving the opposition pointers as to what they need to do to win the hearts and minds of the people. But it is not in them. It is really not part of them. Because why would they don't understand, they doesn't understand what is happening when the LYO, Labor Youth Organization, and other ministers of government go out there and have a social activity, at the same time helping somebody to do some improvement to the home in a social atmosphere. They do not understand that. I do not see anything that the opposition, in particular the Workers' Party, are doing to get people together with them. For instance, you can see, for instance, they're doing raffle. It's about trying to raise money to do something not in the interest of the people, to do something political, that is purely political. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you know how to really rally people, work in the community, that's a political activity, but it is not something that is purely political. So they'll have a rally. They'll do all what they are doing is direct, pure politics. And they cannot really do the work, show people love, show interest in people. That is something that is not in them. It doesn't matter how many times you're going to say it. Because why? Yeah, it is Labour Party is doing that, meeting people. They are criticizing that bitterly. And even if Thompson Funkin tell them they should do something like that, they're not interested in that. So, you know, that the idea of those things there, the majority of them and those who really have influence in the party, they are not tuned to those things there. So they will every day go on the radio. That's where they comfortable, by the way, where they can go and see what they hoping, all they want to do is play people brains.
No,
and as Donnie always say,
not because they're lazy.
Right. As Donnie always say, and to try to get people angry. They want a shortcut to power. Understand? Even if I thought they would ever succeed, but how they did. Remember, in 95, actually they got a shortcut to power, because if the law is there, the law is there, they really won the seats. But they didn't win the popular vote. They still didn't get the hearts and minds of the people. They just win. They won on a technicality. You understand? So that party is not a party that know about those things. Because as I know my friend was saying, and I used to say, in a time when Freedom Party was Freedom Party, and you had YFM, a lot of young people used to gravitate to the YFM. The Workers' Party, about any activity, anything they're doing, that people gravitate to them. They have a strict list of people, 200 of them for the most, that will be always attending and taking part in the activities. They cannot grow. From the 40,000 or the 40% of the electorate vote of people that voting they're getting, they have never passed 43%. They never passed 43%. Even after they were in government for a term, when they got more seats as a bloc, but their bloc did not pass 43%. So this is a party that is not popular. And I think for Dominica's sake, that party need to get out of the way. Because they're not really, they're not a partner, they're not like you. You have a government. We cannot consider them, you know, when you meet somebody you doesn't agree with, or you're going to play cricket, you may win, but you'll find that the person you win is a worthy opponent. They are an unworthy opponent because of the things that they do, the things they say, the tactics that they own, they use in politics. They're not worthy. So people do not see them as a government in waiting, as they like to say. They're supposed to be. But they have the characteristics of a government in waiting. A government in waiting is a party in opposition that is ready to take over and have to keep the government on their toes. And you know, when the government is doing things, they can challenge the government in ways and means that they can make life better for the people. But if they come and give the people about 70 a pension, they criticize it. When they realize that people appreciate it, they try to adopt it, and you come to the parliament and say you want to increase it to $500. Where at the first step, when the government put it in, you see where they go to afford that. But just because you hear people, they appreciate it, you want to put it you want to present it to them. But it's not coming from your heart. It's not an idea of you helping the people. The international, every single thing the government is doing, they are criticizing. So what Dominica needs now is a constructive opposition. And something like the Prime Minister, you really don't need an opposition, because if you have a party that is well democratized, the checks and balances can be in that same party, because our law and our constitution provide for one party in government, in parliament. But the point I'm making is this fellas, they're ready yet, Donnie. They're not ready yet.
Well,
but all they do now is keep people like you and I and Alexander. Alexander is a warrior on Facebook. He has a lot of work to do, because they are relentless in criticizing people, in slandering people, and spreading fake news, disinformation, and misinformation. And we have to have that response to really explain to the people. That's the only thing. I don't want to say they are good at it, you know. That's the thing that they engage themselves in, something like this destructive, and we have to be there to correct it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mills.
Mills, before you go there, Donnie, I just wanted to add that we were talking about the United Workers' Party and its strategy. And it's like they don't even take the attempts at political strategy seriously. So to that matter, when we looked at the last election to replace Ed Regis over there, wasn't it handbag that they sent up against a formidable person like Vince Henderson? How are you going to compete? How is handbag going to compete with Vince Henderson? No matter what rhetoric and garbage or innuendos that you say about Vince, how is handbag going to be a competent representative for the Granby constituency, knowing the type of political stalwarts that came from that community? Let's be serious about that. So it's tantamount to the last election. You know, again, no strategy, catching them flat-footed. They never prepared. So they're not a political party that sits out there and is strategizing on how to build people and how to build Dominica. It's a flight by the seat of their pants or emotions, and that's what triggers them. So they react. You know, they don't necessarily sit there like, as Mill says, a government in waiting. They're just sitting there, and whatever reaction, it's like tremors. It's like an earthquake. They're just, there's always rumblings waiting for an explosion. And that to me is, is not a strategy, and Dominicans should recognize that this is a political party of a bunch of men that's hell-bent on something else besides politics and the caring and nurturing of Dominican. Because when you look at any government in the world, you look at a government that has its people at heart, that government spends money on its people, and this is what our government is doing. The current government is spending money on its people by building housing, by building hospitals, by building road infrastructure, and they can say whatever they want. The facts are there to be seen.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, you know, I want to tie in everything you both just said, and insofar as people who put themselves up for office, showing that they care about people, showing that people's lives and livelihoods matter, finding ways to find opportunities for people to improve and elevate their lives. In the Grand Bay constituency, we've had several examples of such people. We cannot say enough about Pierre Charles. You know, that's a story that has been written and going on in history of a great Dominican. The people of Grand Bay, the Workers' Party say they have a fighting spirit, which meaning what they really mean is they're violent. Because what Workers' Party want is a violent takeover of the government. Grand Bay people are one of the most loving people you ever find, right? And if you show them that you really care about them, they will embrace you. And Lara can testify to that. Lara can testify to this. All right? They love Rosie Douglas. He was a hero in Grand Bay. I mean, all around Dominica, but Grand Bay especially, they loved Rosie Douglas. All right? My dad was not from Grand Bay. He went to Grand Bay as an adult, got married there. But he was embraced as a Grand Bay man because he was another one of a community-spirited person who always extended a hand to somebody. It doesn't matter what your family name was, where you came from, Mabouche, Dubik, wherever, Hagley, Martin, anywhere. All right? We have several of those people in Grand Bay. People who give selflessly, working to build a community. Lawa is one of those people. Amos Thomas is one of those people. Willie Favre is one of those people who give of themselves, not for any reward, but fighting to make the community better. Always looking for ways, how can I assist? Building libraries, giving free lessons, teaching children who volunteer their time. My stepmom was one of those people. Send the kids to my house and we'll help them with the lessons. Free. Opening preschools. That's the Grand Bay people I know. That's the kind of spirit that's in Grand Bay. Not people who you can go and look for like they are missionaries to let's go fight a war. Let's go fight a war. We angry. We need some angry people. Let's go Grand Bay, get them. That is demeaning. That is something that we have to just condemn. Grammy people are much better than this. And to be even considered, for somebody to even think that they can just go out there and get some bad men to go and to commit crime and to go and go and vandalize businesses and go and rob places and set fires. That doesn't happen. Because we in Granby, we are not fools. We are not stooges. We are not stooges. We fight for what is right and what is just. And we don't make some guy who lives his life in America. The same guy who's trying to deny me and Lara from coming to vote lives and works in America. Ito. Right? And the leader of the Workers' Party who's trying to deny me my rights to come and vote, me and Lara, lives and works in Sudan. But you come to Granby to get people to support your electoral reform to disenfranchise me, their own brothers, their own family, their own friends. What do we look like? That's why, my brother, I am focused on this disrespect, this insult, this insult, and this guy should never put their face in Granby again. Talking their nonsense. Because when you were in power, the people who you call fighters, who are fighting spirit, you consider them criminals and terrorists, that you open fire on them and kill their families and their friends. And today you want to embrace the fighting spirit? We 10:14, and we're about to wrap up very soon. So, Lawa, I will give you your last words.
Well, according to Brother Sui Anthony Grell, Granby is not for sale. And they will not even get a piggyback ride as they tried to get a piggyback ride last week Sunday. What they will get is they will be totally ignored, as was done by the Granby people last week Sunday. And we have the history of the past. Granby knows all about them. You don't even need Donnie and I to tell them. They already know. And Granby knows what it stands for. So Granby will not be disrespected in any way, shape, or form. People like Donnie and I will stand up to condemn that. And the Granby people know who their leaders are. They know who to stand behind, who to listen to. They will not listen to puppets who come or strangers bearing gifts. And while they're saying Granby people are broke and they dehumanizing Granby people and all that, one thing they had on their agenda was to pass a donation box around in Granby.
Yes, indeed. These guys are amazing.
I don't know if they did it because, truthfully speaking, I did not pay attention to their comments. I did not listen to them. I didn't follow them. I just know Granby people will teach them a lesson. And Granby people are so civilized. I know they came out with their drinks and their Johnny cake and their chicken to make money on them. And then they turned their backs on them. They were not going to do like the fools in Salisbury to say you're gonna set up your platform, you're gonna set up your mic, you're gonna set up your speakers. Go, we don't want you to know. Granby is a civilized place. And is one of the most progressive places in Dominica. So again, I want to thank you all for having me on this panel tonight. It was very interesting. And for all the listeners, I hope you had a lot to learn tonight about Granby and where we stand and what we are looking for, where we are heading. And we'll always stand against the enemies of progress. the wicked ones, the worthless ones that are trying to be back in power, but no matter how they try, I don't think they will ever succeed. As Mr. Thomas said, it's time for them to go. The Saint Spirit must go, but it's that opposition that must go. You are there too long, wasting time. They must go. And let Labour continue to push Dominica forward as we are doing with our international airport, geothermal, the tramway, and all the rehabilitation, and all the houses, and all what is happening is good for the country. So when it's good, you have to say it's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Paul. Thank you. It's a pleasure having you. And of course, we will always link up. The fight continues. And I'm sure this is not the last time you'll be on our program. So thank you very much. And I wish you a wonderful evening, you and your family. Mr. Morrison?
Yes, Donnie. Thank you. It was such a pleasure to have Lawa join the panel this evening. A real formidable Facebook warrior out there. I always jump on his posts because the stuff that he says really they get me intrigued. And I mean, he says the right thing. To me, he's always right on point, And I just love how he disseminates the information and the way he talks. Just little headlines, and he's keeping in touch. He
don't get rattled. They get rattled.
No, he doesn't.
They attack him, and then when he answers, they run away.
All the time, they always run away because they cannot stand to him. Yeah.
He stays and he fights, man, and he fights and he knocks them out with just some little
subtleties,
a few lines. And then what's really amazing, I think with him is that every now and then he'll give you a historical perspective of what he's talking about. He'll pull from his archives and he'll give you a little history, because I love reading those things. They give you, and that's somebody that's just not throwing stuff against the wall and hoping that it sticks. That's somebody that is knowledgeable and just passing up such useful information to. And none of the people that are attacking him, they can't even do that. They can't even match up to that. But yet still, they will call him names and they'll say things and about that. And I just love his tenacity. This evening, I think we did justice in terms of the Granby situation. And Donnie, I share your sentiments. I felt the passion with you when you talk about the disrespect that they won't come into Granby to ask Granbarians to join them in a solidarity process so that, whatever they're trying to achieve, they will come into Granby just for one objective. Because I guess, I don't know if you remember Howlins and Cape Asa, these guys, they're thinking that's okay. Let's get some Howlins and Cape Asa and let's go down to Roseau to one thing. And the way you just were totally opposed to that. I mean, I share that sentiment. Have a little more respect to the constituents of Granby and the people that live in Granby. Show a little more dignity and a little more pride. In the same voice that you're saying you want to bring back pride and dignity to Dominica, you show that first by showing that to people in Granby, and not trying to use Granby people as a catalyst for what you want to do, And I just appreciate you having me join the panel this evening, to help with that discussion. And I'm just looking forward to next week, where we'll deal with other touching matters in Dominica. Thank you for the listener. Oh, Donnie, you forgot to hit our viewers this evening. I totally forget myself. I'm only now remembering.
Yeah. They'll forgive us for that, I think, because of this
I hope so.
The passion in this discussion. So, but before I go, yes, I will always salute them. They're a big part of it.
Sure.
Mr. Mills.
Yeah, man. Well, we had a great time this evening talking about the Granby. The community about Granby is really an interesting community to talk about. I mean, Paul Alexander started the history of Granby and how it started. The first civilization in Dominica. But from my own personal experience, as I said earlier on, I worked in Granby for the various stages of my career as a police officer, constable up to an officer, different times. And on every occasion, I get to know and appreciate and actually really, truly love the people of Granby. I love their culture. I love the way they relate, and I love their boldness. I love a bold person. They let you know what they're thinking. They'll not smile if you're behind your back, say something bad. If they are not pleased with something, they'll let you know that they're not pleased with something. So that's why the opposition should realize that if the Granby people had any problem with what the government was doing on electoral reform, they would have to come there and try to get them. They would stand and they would say what they have to say. But the most interesting thing that I learned, and that probably I know this discussion this evening, is to compare a place like Granby that is a true stronghold of the Labour Party because the opposition always lose their deposit. As compared to Salisbury, they always win, the opposition always win in Salisbury. When you check the figures, nobody lose their deposit in Salisbury. Those that the Labour never lose your mic is up. Labour never lose their deposit in Salisbury. But in the last election, the Salisbury people wanted to show their might by what? By anti-democratic stance. There's an election, you chose to try to boycott it. At the same time, you get an independent candidate, which you were supporting. The government is coming to keep a meeting in Salisbury, and you wanted to flex your muscles of ignorance, arrogance, and violence, and say that the Prime Minister cannot come there. The whole Prime Minister, if the Prime Minister was so much, the power was in his head, he would show the people of Salisbury that he had the power of the law at his back, and he would not come there. But the Bible tells you something, you turn the other cheek, and they went to Vickers. So just to compare and contrast the attitude of the people of Granby, very respectful and resolute. Salisbury people prone to violence and confrontation, useless confrontation. So that is an example that I learned from the people of Granby. And Granby people, thank you very much. Thank you very much for standing up for peace and justice and being the example of a community that other communities can take an example from you by standing up to rogues and vagabonds and people who are arrogant and pompous, and you deal with them in a very smart and wise way. So, Granby people, I salute you. It was my pleasure having on this program this evening and already highlight while we're talking about the disrespect for Granby, but I am highlighting the virtue of the people of Granby. Thank you, Donny. It was a pleasure being with you as usual, and I hope that we'll be back on very soon on next Monday, but very soon on Thursday, we'll be on True Politics as usual. I'm looking forward to have that company with you. And Paul Alexander, it was a pleasure, always a pleasure having you on this program. You always bring a wealth of knowledge. And as a matter of fact, Paul Alexander is supposed to be one of our partners, on True Politics. One thing I know, yeah. One thing I know, when you call on him, he's always there. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, comrades,
I like that, Mills. You said they should have gone to Salisbury first. Yeah, that makes sense. They should have gone to Salisbury.
yeah, comrades, thank you.
Yes,
Always
sir.
a pleasure as always. I want to thank you all for your time, and I want to thank profusely the listeners, the viewers, all who viewed and watched on Facebook, YouTube, and also on VTJM Radio. Thank you very, very much for being with us on another Monday night. We always look forward to your listenership and your participation, your texts, your comments. It all helps us present a better program. I want to say that as a Granburian, I call myself a Granberrian. I was not born there, but I'm a Granberrian. Granbury is a very proud village constituency, which has produced great men and women of all disciplines, sports, academia, music, culture, art, name it. And when I see people trying to portray Granby as a place where you could just go pick up some thugs to start a fight, it is great disrespect to me and to every proud Granburian. Granby is not that kind of place. And Granby people are very intelligent. They understand politics. They understand life. They understand what it means to have the right representation. And Morrison made the point earlier. Some people were bickering and hollering about having Ambassador Vince Henderson because he was not from Granby to be our power rep, to contest the seat in Granby. But they give us an alternative of a handbag. You know? So how much respect do you have from Granby people if you say Vince not fit to be the power rep, but handbag is?
Yep. Yep.
You know, in this 2024, you are asking the people of Granby to elect an illiterate to be the power rep. That's how much respect they have for Granby people. You know, however, I had no doubt that the people of Granby were going to make the right decision. Like we all said, they did not provoke any violence. They just shut the doors and the windows and ignored these people, right? And if there were 25 listeners, 25 crowd strong, it was 21 were from outside of Granby. All right, and this is a place I'm very proud of. I'm proud to call my home because I have been influenced and brought up and nurtured by great individuals. And I want to thank them all for all their mentorship and their guidance, you know, to make me, you know, who I am. So thank you very much. Let me say a special good night to the Mann family in Connecticut. I want to say good night to Derek. I hope you are doing okay. I will definitely call you after the program to see how you're doing. And of course, Mann Audiovisual for your great work. Let me say good night. Let me say thanks to VTGM Radio, DJ Kojak. Thank you very much for transmitting our program live on your radio station. So I'm looking forward to next week. I wish everyone a wonderful evening. Thank you very much. God bless and good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah. Yes, sir.